Hello, welcome to The Point of View. My name is Selom Adunu, sitting in for your regular host, Bernard Kokwable. On The Point of View, we select the right topic, we bring the right guest, and we often leave you with some insights. The NDC over the weekend launched its manifesto. This is a week after the MPP launched its. The NDC calls its Resetting Ghana, Jobs, Accountability, Prosperity, building the Ghana that we want together. What's in the manifesto really? A number of thematic areas have been suggested. A number of thematic spokespersons have also been put out there. And today we'll be having a discussion with one of those people. Very popular person, you know him. He's been around quite a bit. The show is live and interactive. You can join the discussion via our WhatsApp line, 020-444-7033. Feel free to join us on social media as well. Taking a short break, I'll return, then we'll delve into the matters proper. Don't go away. Hi, you're welcome back. This is The Point of View. Again, sitting in for your regular host, Bernard Kokwable. Today, we are looking at the NDC. Indeed, they launched their manifesto over the weekend, and a number of things have come up. They say they want to reset Ghana. They want to do so by providing jobs, by providing accountability, and ensuring there's prosperity for all. They say that we must build the Ghana we want together. We want to delve into that document and see really what it is. We say the devil is in the detail. To help us with the discussion today is an honorable member of parliament for the North Tongue constituency. He's also the chairman for the Assurance Committee of Parliament, and indeed one of the spokespersons on the governance side of the NDC manifesto. He is Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwah. Honorable, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Salam. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You've been busy, chairman of the Assurances Committee, etc., but you are an opposition MP. So does it mean that the Assurances Committee is one of those that an opposition MP chairs? And how is it going now?
Yes, we have amended our standing orders. One of the defects we realized with the old standing orders is that the Assurances Committee, which ought to have been chaired by a member who is not with the ruling party, that provision did not exist. And so it has been a committee chaired by a member from the ruling party. And so it has really not been able to exact the accountability. Because if you look at other committees like the Public Account Committee, the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, you can fairly argue that these committees have really been up and doing because you are not concerned that party people will say you are taking on your own colleague too much and too hard, and you are prying too much and all of that. You put the chairs of these committees in awkward positions. So now with the new standing orders, the chair is no longer a member of the ruling party. The standing orders provides under Order 225 that the chair should come from a party not in government. So I'm the first chairman of the newly reconfigured Assurances Committee. And I think that it's brought in a new life, a new verve. It's been, you know, an expansion of the frontiers of Parliament in terms of pursuing our oversight mandate.
I see. So what powers does the committee have? What can you do apart from shining the light on non-performing ministers and policies, etc.? What powers do you have?
Lots of powers. I mean, many people underestimate parliamentary committees. Parliamentary committees really have the powers of a high court. So we can subpoena and we can recommend that an official be sanctioned. An official should face a vote of censure. I mean, because already, by the time we invite you, you are not looking too good because the Assurances Committee under Order 225 pursues assurances made to the House. And often these assurances are in arrears. They have not been met. There are delays. So we want to find out. For example, recently we summoned the Lands and Natural Resources Minister. You made an assurance to us in February 2022, more than 2.5 years ago, when we requested the full list of public lands. You haven't provided them. Why have you kept the House waiting? So he appeared before us and had to ask for more time, apologize, and we gave him one last opportunity that we will not go beyond the end of this year, so that at least before our tenure comes to an end by midnight of 6th January, we should have that list for the House. So the committee, if it is minded to do its work under the powers that the standing orders and the Constitution of Ghana provides, we can really be effective and we can exact accountability. And at the end of the day, it's about strengthening our democracy. It is about the representation of the people, making sure that the people's hopes and aspirations are met. Because everybody can be, here pursuing the ethos of democracy. That's why we are elected and brought here. And the people, our constituents, expect that through committees, through the work of Parliament, we will be able to perfect this democracy and make sure that we all benefit from the democratic dividend.
The very last one on this. So the Parliament has another tool it uses to exact accountability from ministers, etc. Calling them before Parliament to answer questions. How different is that from the Assurances Committee?
Yes, so often the parliamentary tool to ask questions, which is a very powerful tool in every parliament, often those assurances that are provided during question time end up with us. So for example, a member of Parliament asks that we need this road, or we need this water system, or we need this hospital. Then say the health minister comes and says that we take note, in the next budget, by next year, we will deliver this hospital, construct it in your constituency. It is the duty of the Assurances Committee to follow up, and we do field visits to go check if that assurance that came up as a result of the MP's question has been met.
I see.
And then we will summon the minister, if it has not been met, to find out why. If there is reasonable justification for a delay or why it has not been met. Probably the minister was well-intentioned, but the Minister for Finance did not release funds. Something like that can be considered quite justifiable. But even then, you have to then reassure the House on when those bottlenecks will be addressed. Good. But if it is a case that just blatant, you just came to deceive us and made no effort, then we can recommend to the plenary that that minister should be sanctioned, for example.
Very well. So now let's go to the meat of it. So the party launched its manifesto over the weekend called it Resetting Ghana, Jobs, Accountability, Prosperity. The question is, how crucial is the matter of accountability to your agenda? I say so because, recently we heard Professor Jinano Opokwajima, your former boss and your boss as well now, talk about the fact that, it is not a threat to exact accountability from the past government, or should this present government, should they be out of government and NDC comes in, and that it was a promise. Indeed, in the foreword to the manifesto, I think the closing paragraph of John Dramani Mahama says, I promise to exact accountability from all public officials, past and present, by the grace of the Almighty God, and with your support we shall reset and build the Ghana we want to get. The question is, how central or how crucial is accountability to this agenda?
Let me take a quick moment to commend the drafters of this manifesto, colleagues who worked on it, but most importantly, to salute the Ghanaian people. We are calling this a people's manifesto because, as the NDC always does, we go to the people. So this is our manifesto writing approach. It's not to put together experts, lock them up in a room, cocoon them away from the masses, and then they come up with their own expert views about the situation and how this country should run. We go to the people, and so we've engaged journalists, we've engaged youth associations, student leaders, organized labor, diplomats, we've engaged market women, traders, Association of Ghana Industries, you name them, everybody. And so you'll notice that this is a culmination of those engagements. And the product, the final product, is resonating with the people because that is what the people told us. And you see, in all of those, now I come to your question, in all of those engagements, many people have told us that, look, we are only going to vote for you because we demand accountability. We know you can't do much in terms of infrastructure, in terms of, transforming this country in 4 years. But if you can exact accountability. We are tired of the one day one scandal. And scandals that are totally unprecedented. I mean, how on earth can you spend $58.1 million to establish the world's most expensive pit in the name of building a cathedral? And the deception, you tell us you won't use public funds, it's a private pledge, only for me to start intercepting documents that apparently the eminent clergy have been deceived, the Ghanaian people have been deceived, and worst of all, the Almighty has been deceived. That all along, taxpayer funds going into this project. I did an RTI request to the Public Procurement Authority on whether they are aware of this project. They promptly responded that no, it hasn't come through a procurement process. We know nothing about the project. I mean, unbelievable and shocking levels of lack of accountability, lack of due process, disregard for our constitution. The constitution is very clear. You cannot spend public funds without parliamentary approval. And all of that, flagrant violation of our constitution and our laws. And you have an architect who, after receiving 32 million cedis, they decide that they need to add a restaurant. So just a little addition. What they called in the letter, which I'll share with you, a little variation. This letter signed by Ken Oforiatta, dated 6 July 2021. Submission of invoice for payment, National Cathedral of Ghana. Please refer to your letter number SCRDE3/296/02, dated 27 April 2021, requesting the release of, listen to the amount, $5,817,769.65 to pay consultancy fees in respect of the variation orders for the inclusion of a 300-seater restaurant. Can you believe that? So after paying this David Ajay over 32 million Ghana cedis, a variation order for a restaurant to be added to its original design, we paid $5.8 million. How much would the restaurant itself, the actual construction cost? So things like this, ambulance spare parts scandal, $34.9 million. The Auditor General discovers that the value for the ambulance should be $80,000. We paid $145,000. In addition to that, the spare parts for the ambulance is more than the value of the ambulance, $113,000.
So it does appear that
so many scandals,
you're
so
spending
many
a lot
wastage.
of your time rather chasing things which have happened in the past rather than going on with the business of nation building.
Not at all.
Witch hunting.
Accountability is part of nation building. That is why we have declared Operation Retrieve or Loot, oral. And you see, oral is so integral to resetting this country. All politicians, me inclusive, we must know that the day of accountability will come. You cannot take the people for a ride. You cannot dissipate and divert the people's resources and think that you'll get away with it. And you see, many people forget there are too many people in possession of our money when they have no business having that money. Look, as I speak to you, let me cite a few examples. SkyTrain. Under a so-called SkyTrain project, some people...
But they did somewhere, didn't they? They did some feasibility studies.
The auditors have determined that $2 million is wasted money.
But they did feasibility
that
studies.
It has to be refunded. That is what the Auditor General is saying, that they must refund the money, the $2 million. Then you also have these shonky sheikhs who were purportedly bringing us Sputnik V vaccines. Sputnik V, manufactured in Russia. Our health minister was roaming around Dubai. When I met the Russian ambassador to Ghana, who told me, I'm here, I'm waiting. Even neighboring countries, I've assisted them. If your government had come to me directly, I would just have put them in touch with Moscow, and you'll have gotten your vaccines. First of all, its efficacy will have been guaranteed, and it will have even been at a cheaper rate. So those shonky sheikhs, as we speak, are keeping out $2.4 million. Then there's a gentleman called Karisames, who was supposed to raise funds for the National Cathedral, keeping out $6 million. It doesn't happen anywhere. The industry practice is that when you raise the funds, then you are given a commission. But Karisames was given $6 million in advance to go raise funds. He couldn't raise the funds. He's keeping the money. Pualugu, $11.9 million. Ejapa, $12 million. I can go on and on. So how can you come to government and say that you just want to look forward, you don't want to retrieve? You are indirectly sending a signal to the new government that they can also engage in conduct
But
like
I'm
this.
talking about accountability. What then is your record? We saw the Mills Mahama government in 2009, right to 2012. No past official was put behind bars. Same allegations were raised in the John Kufuor era. You came to office, nothing happened. The only thing we saw was the commission on Ghana at 50. You tried to prosecute on that. The court said, no, you cannot prosecute on that. So no single official who suffered such allegations is being made to face the music. So what is your record? How do you expect Ghanaians to believe in this call for accountability and oral and all the things you said, since in the past you failed to do anything like that?
It is a fair question, and Ghanaians who will ask this question of us have every right to ask that question. My first response is that we have never seen this level of corruption, this level of looting, this level of state capture is unprecedented. We've never seen anything on this scale. Secondly, we all learn from our mistakes. If you take, for example, the Ghana at 50 fiasco, it turned out that that was not the route we should have adopted. We should just have gone straight into prosecution. If you were intending to prosecute, that is what the judiciary later determined. And so lessons have been learned. That is why if you pay regard to the wording of our manifesto, we have avoided commission of inquiry, that same Ghana at 50 approach and all of that. Lessons have been learned. Now there's, well-settled jurisprudence on these matters, how to go about exacting accountability, prosecuting. If you have to prosecute, just build your docket and go straight for the jugular. Don't use commissions of inquiry and all of that and get yourself bogged down. So lessons have been learned, and our assurance to the Ghanaian people is that, yes, we know that our record in time past in terms of exacting accountability, making sure that people pay for their crimes has not been particularly sterling. But that is why we improve and we learn. But even in that scenario, let us not forget that Professor Mills, you see, many people don't give him credit. He quietly did a great job for this country without necessarily putting people behind bars. If you take the vexed issue of land grabbing, many people forget that Professor Mills managed to retrieve a lot of those lands. So we may have to learn lessons.
But if you retrieve, you don't punish. So I will keep it, hoping that I'm not found out. If I'm found out, I give it up. I don't lose anything.
No, but it's better than no action at all. So if you take the airport lands, where we now have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, many people forget that all those lands had been sold largely to cabinet ministers. Professor Mills said, look at the value you paid. It's not even market value. You got this for chicken change, really. We are returning your money. We are taking back our lands. He did same with cars. A lot of the cars which had been auctioned so cheaply. He said, look, I don't want to buy new cars and all of that when we don't really, derive any value from what you have paid. There's no value for money, so return them. So that approach also helps. So even though the Mills era is criticized for not putting people behind bars, at least he kept faith with the people in retrieving a lot of these state assets which found themselves in wrong hands.
Talking about reset, reset is a huge word. For some of us, reset should mean, working on the mindset of people, which indeed is a software that runs a lot of things. So the call for patriotism, which a lot of people say is missing in our system today, commitment to work, putting Ghana first before party, etc. That should also constitute a major plank of the reset agenda. We will hardly see anything like that in your manifesto. No plans for that?
Very brilliant question. We have plans for that. If you listen to President Mahama carefully, when he was listing the things that need reset, the last one was our attitudes, which addresses this. So he says, look, the economy needs a reset. Our environment needs a reset. See what Galamsey is doing to us. We are all at risk. He talks about they need to make sure that the unemployment crisis, needs a reset. Then he concludes with our attitudes, that our attitudes also need a reset. So it is, you see, reset is such a powerful word. If you pay attention to the latest Afrobarometer, the Democracy Risk Report, 9 out of 10 Ghanaians interviewed by CDD and their partners said that this country is in the wrong direction. Can you believe that? It's the highest the Afrobarometer has ever recorded. 9 out of 10. A similar number said that corruption is at an all-time high. And if you read the Corruption Perception Index, we have stagnated. Indeed, the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia best performance is Mahama's worst performance, if you look at our corruption record. Then you take the Statistical Service report, which revealed that last year, there were many days that millions of Ghanaians went to bed without even one meal. Then you factor in nomenclatures which now appear normal, but hitherto unheard of. Debt restructuring, debt exchange program, financial haircuts, and all of that. It means
But
by
the times we find ourselves in. I mean, we've had a double, catastrophe. The RU war, we've had COVID, which was unprecedented, and all of that. So these things, left in their wake, economic difficulties, and all around the world, people have had to reorganize their economies. People have had to suffer some pain, etc., lose a few things. Ghana is not an island, so that is our version of it.
I'm glad you say that Ghana is not an island. I'm glad you say that it was a pandemic, not an epidemic, meaning it affected the whole world, so many countries. Why is it that even in our sub-region, it is only Ghana that is going through a domestic debt exchange program?
Ethiopia is trying to go through that 20% haircut they say they will suffer.
Ivory Coast is not going through that. Togo is not going through that. Benin is not going through that. Nigeria is not going through that. They have not been shut out of the international financial market. They have not been shut out. They have not been downgraded to junk status by the sovereign credit rating agencies. And you see, if you listen to people like the former World Bank country director who warned since 2018, we were on the wrong trajectory. You had a finance minister who was borrowing like there's no tomorrow. If you put the Eurobonds of all presidents in the Fourth Republic, it's nowhere near what they were borrowing. We were in this same house, warning them, cautioning that watch it. This your debt binge. This your humongous appetite for debt. You are going to plunge us into a catastrophe. And see where we are. I mean, you took this economy at 56% debt to GDP. In 2022, it exceeded 100%. Can you believe that? 122 billion cedis is ballooned to 750 billion cedis, our public debt. Meanwhile, many Ghanaians forget that in all the attacks that they heap on President Mahama, you never hear the NPP acknowledge the huge sums of money that President Mahama left behind for them. President Mahama left $270 million at GIF for them in the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. They don't talk about that. President Mahama left $500 million in the sinking fund. They don't talk about it. President Mahama left $300 million in the stabilization fund. That is over $1 billion. They don't talk about that.
But
they
the
have
challenges
squandered
of the last
everything,
4
including
years
the two
have been
oil
unprecedented.
fields.
I mean, the pandemic we mentioned is one of those. Nobody knew where the world was going to end up. People stayed home, but they were paid. I mean, and a whole lot of things happened. So those monies would have been used for some other things. And then, indeed, there's quite a huge investment in infrastructure and things we see around the STEM schools and all of that. We've seen some interchanges here and there. So there's quite some use for that money. But I mean, the economy is on a rebound, we are told. Inflation is easing. A lot of things are happening. The country already appears to be finding its road back to, the promised land, if you like. Why is it so necessary to call for a reset now when the economy is on a rebound? It's on the road to progress.
So, in this COVID discussion, what you fail to add is that there was a windfall of over 25 billion cedis. Unfortunately, when the Auditor General looked into the expenditure, the Auditor General discovered, and you've seen that special audit on COVID funds, the Auditor General discovered that large portions of the money did not even go into managing the pandemic, pardon me, that they had used the funds, as usual, for naked corruption. So, you see, this is a government that has had so much goodwill. This so-called rebound, which is not reflecting in the people's lives. I am a member of parliament who likes to be on the ground, who likes to be in the constituency every week. As I speak to you, my VRA spillage victims are still living in tents. And I salute CTFM for the tremendous job you did, you know, helping us to build a hospital with the Ghana Chamber of Mines, and then all of that. Recently, on my birthday, I was able to re-equip that hospital. But all those who came to your aid when you appealed so, you know, fantastically for our support, you notice that they will be so depressed to hear that a year after this disaster, people are still living in tents. The government claims it does not have resources for such priorities to take care of displaced victims. People who no fault of theirs, you have totally altered their lives permanently. They've lost everything that they have.
That's some money that was earmarked in the budget.
And yet, yes, 80 million cedis was earmarked in the budget. We don't know where that money is.
But the year is not ended. So the money will come.
Look at the things this government is spending on. Are you aware that after we approved about 102 million, that's what they said they needed from us for the 13th African Games. And this is aside infrastructure. This is just for operational expenses, administrative expenses. Are you aware that by the closing ceremony, they had withdrawn a whopping 460 million? We thought that was bad enough. I discovered a few days ago that apparently they are still withdrawing money for the 13th Africa Games. So far, they have withdrawn 168 million Ghana cedis for the 13th Africa Games. And you can tell us, look at us in the face, and say that you can't take care of displaced victims from the VRA spillage and a disaster of that proportion. You can tell us that people who are dying at Kolebu, sometimes they just need 2 million cedis, the Kolebu renal unit, for consumables. You don't have the money. And yet 168 million cedis withdrawn without parliamentary approval, and they keep withdrawing. So you see, these are people who lack priorities, who lack conscience, who lack a heart, who lack humanity. They have no sensitivity towards the plight of the Ghanaian people. That is why this country needs a reset.
Very well. This is the point of view coming to you live from Channel 1 Television. My name is Selom Adonu, sitting in for Bernard Kokoble. My guest is the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwah. He's a spokesperson on the governance part of the NDC manifesto launched over the weekend. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll look at some other areas of the manifesto, such as education and how to fund some of the things that they have said they will do. And of course, we also look at the talk about the fact that Ghana needs an upgrade, not a reset. Don't go, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the point of view on Channel 1 Television. We are happy that you are spending your evening with us today. We've been looking at the NDC manifesto. They say they want to reset Ghana, jobs, accountability, prosperity. We're dealing with the first part of, we're dealing with the subject of resetting generally. Well, there's this thing, so talking about accountability and a few other things, there's this thing that Dr. Baumia, who is the vice president and the flag bearer of the NPP, has been telling people whenever he gets the opportunity. He says John Mahama will have just 4 years, which may raise accountability problems. He will have 4 years. He will have to come back to the people and ask for another 4 years, which means that he will be more accountable to the people. In the light of the accountability discussion, how do you receive that particular comment from Dr. Bawumia?
So on the contrary, if you have analyzed the quest for accountability under the Fourth Republican dispensation, you notice that real accountability only happens when there's a change of government. You don't have a culture of governments going after their own and exacting accountability. That is why, after many years of debate, we decided to create the Office of the Special Prosecutor, that attorney generals don't have the courage to prosecute their own, particularly ministers who they sit in cabinet with. The OSP experiment, the verdict is still out there, whether it has succeeded or it will succeed. But the surest way of demanding and securing accountability is when you leave the stage and a new government comes in to assess your conduct and then to make sure that there is accountability. So the vice president is scoring an own goal. If it's really about the accountability question, then many Ghanaians will say, okay, then it's better you leave. And it's even probably better that every now and then, and as quickly and rampant as possible, we should bring in new governments to exert accountability. Because really, that has been the tradition. I mean, many people are saying that a vote for Bawumia is a vote for Nana Akufo-Addo's third term. Because the reason why they are so hell-bent, and President Akufo-Addo will consistently say that he's not going to hand over very undemocratic statements that, somebody, but it's not responsible talk. It can be couched in a different manner if you say that you hope to win, but to say you won't hand over and then to have your Greek minister say that no matter what happens, hook or crook, they won't hand over. I mean, such very inflammatory, incendiary and unconstitutional language should not be coming from such high office holders. So look, the only way, if we must exert accountability, already you have a regime that has earned the unenviable track record of being described as clearing agents. Akufo-Addo's nickname now is that he's a chief clearing agent. And that nickname came about because Ghanaians saw that he doesn't deal with his own. Unlike President Mahama, who had the courage to take on his own. Look at what he did to the National Service folks. Look at what he did to JIDA. See how he investigated his own youth and sports minister. Compare even how Victoria Hammer, our own good friend, was treated just for loose talk. Compare that to how President Akufo-Addo treated Cicely Adapa, who actually, had the millions of dollars in her room. And that love letter the president wrote saying that you will be vindicated. When the investigative bodies read that letter, are you surprised that they were rather fighting amongst themselves and let her go scot-free? Because they didn't want to embarrass the appointing authority, who has said that Cecilia Adapa will be investigated. So these people, you cannot trust them to deal with their own. The only way we can have accountability is for there to be regime change so that the previous government will be thoroughly and adequately investigated and prosecuted when the need arises.
So talking about regime change, we know there's been a practice in our governance. Politicians, especially when they are leaving power, are made to buy the vehicles they use. These days, politicians buying their bungalows, etc. And now we have state lands which you've been championing, etc. It goes to the heart of good governance. I see that in your governance, in the governance section of your manifesto. How do you hope to stop that? I know there's a private members bill you are championing. I don't know the status of that yet. But why is it so important for the NDC to include this in the manifesto, that they will not allow public officials to buy state property? And even with that, public officials are smart. They can use proxies. They can use other people to buy it, and it just comes back to them. So how are you dealing with all of that?
Brilliant question, and I am so passionate about this matter. Look, the rate at which we are losing state assets to politically exposed persons is so unconscionable. It is so unacceptable. And we should not countenance, we should not tolerate this. You heard the president lament not too long ago that the reason why he missed all his deadlines for Agenda 111 is that he couldn't find the government lands. He couldn't find lands to build on. And yet, this president keeps selling these lands. Look, we have been asking in Parliament since February of 2022 that we want to have the full list of state lands. Because under Article 257, public lands are vested in the president. He holds them in trust on our behalf. So let us know the status, who you are selling to, what is left, if any. It's been such a tussle, such a struggle.
Poor record keeping to blame for it.
And yet, poor record keeping, and yet when it's time to sell these lands, when they are selling on a weekly basis, they know where they are to sell them. I don't know if you have paid regard to the latest expose I put out on the lands around the AU village. President Akufo-Addo selling these lands to his appointees. And I put out the list, unimpeachable, they cannot challenge them. On the 31st of August 2022, President Akufo-Addo sold portions of the AU village lands at prime cantonments to Kejimfua, the MPP women's organizer. On the 30th of November 2020, the sitting Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable Ibrahim Mohammed Awal, took his share. Dr. Ernest Yedu Addison, the governor of the central bank, purchased his from the president, 31st August 2022. His deputies, LC Aduawaji, 27th August 2020, Maxwell Opoku Afari, the other deputy governor, 31st August 2022. The Cocoa Board CEO, Joseph Boahin Edu, 30th October 2020. Dr. Janet Ampedu Fofie, 29th June 2022. She is the chairperson of Presidential Emoluments Committee. Then you have other appointees here, Kwabena Mante, Jekte Nyako, and some Rasford Ajete Sowa, Ken Ofuriata's Enterprise Assurance, and now Sari Odro, the former MPP Women's Organizer, the Holland chapter, Georgina Wood, Kwesi Etua, the board chair of SIC.
So NDC will seek to retrieve all these lands?
Absolutely. This is all part of our operation, retrieve all loot. Because, look, first of all...
But they went through the process legally.
They didn't go through due process. They were not advertised. We didn't have value for money. I have looked at the rates. Nobody paid beyond more than 250,000. It was between 180 and 250,000 cedis a plot. A total giveaway. The market value is $500,000, 7.7 million Ghana cedis. That's the market value. And people are paying 180, 190,000. You know, so we are saying that we are going to publish for the first time in the history of this country a state asset registry. And I'm excited about it because one of the things that my private members bill was seeking to achieve. We'll have a state asset registry where all our state assets, be they hotels, be they lands, be they cars, forests, Ramsar sites, name them, all will be on that state asset registry. Then we are also saying that we are going to ban politicians, ban politically exposed persons. We are going to review the law on asset declaration so that spouses will be captured. It is all under our new governance architecture that we hope
spouses will be captured in terms of their assets?
Yes.
Okay.
So that because what we have observed over time is that some politicians who think they are smarter legs are, acquiring
in the name of their spouses.
In the names of their spouses. And we want to check that. Then you look at the scholarships regime as well. We are proposing for the first time in this country's history a law to deal with scholarships so that we will end the chronism, the nepotism. We are saying that politicians cannot go for scholarships. Their children, politically exposed persons cannot.
Even if the state feels that there's something they must learn from another country or another university, the state cannot sponsor them to go to that scholarship.
There are others, brilliant but needy, who need those scholarships. Let them have it. Let's leave the scholarships for them.
I see. Let's talk about education. You've been a former Deputy Minister for Education. We talk about free SHS. You say you want a dedicated, in fact, you said you review it, and the talk has been that your review could mean cancellation, and that you cannot be trusted to be the ones to review the free SHS because you opposed it in the way it was rolled out. Now you're saying that you have a dedicated sustainable funding source for the free SHS. You talk about no fee stress for first-year students at the public tertiary institutions, and a whole lot of things under the education subsector. You know, the question has often been, how do we fund these? A number of things you said you would do, but you're also seeking to scrap taxes. I mean, the betting tax, you said you scrap, COVID levy,
emissions
levy,
e-levy,
and all of those. You're going to scrap them. You're going to also uncap, you know, the statutory funds, etc. How are you going to raise money to do a lot of these things you say you want to do?
So, remember that we've talked about Operation Retrieve or Loot. And we spent some time this evening talking about that. The other thing we are going to do is review the Public Procurement Act. We are losing a lot of money through insider dealings, conflict of interest. If you read the Auditor General's report on Cocoa Road projects in 2023, it says 87% of all the contracts were single source. They were not competitive. 87%. And very terribly, the vice president's brothers, Abraham Bawumia, we are the center of it. Resource Access Limited. And the Auditor General did two things. So he did not only look at the nature in which these contracts were awarded, and he condemned the preponderance of single source contracts. He also decided to assess the value. And he discovered that anytime these road contracts were awarded competitively, Ghana had value for money. When they were awarded single source, and the 87% of them, he says that 3 times the value is what was given to these single source contractors.
Single source contracts are not new to our laws. They're actually in our laws.
Yes, but they are being abused. They are being abused. And we are saying we are going to review the law and tighten it so that what the Bawumia brothers are engaging in will not be allowed to continue. Now, we are going to save a lot of money from there. Then we are also saying that government size is too big. So President Mahama is saying that he will reduce the size of ministers to 60.
But the size of ministers alone is not enough, because you can have fewer ministers but a lot of assistants. You can have a lot of other appointees in other sectors. You know, the MMDAs. You could have a very top-heavy structure. So if you say you reduce your ministers to 60, indeed, the opposite number is talking about 50, which is even better than yours. If you say you reduce the number to 60, it doesn't really address the problem.
So you see, our opposite number is talking about 50, and he ends there. But if you read President Mahama's 120-day pledge, the social contract to the Ghanaian people, he doesn't only talk about ministers. He says that he will put together the leanest government in history. He has been talking about the Office of Government Machinery. Let me tell you some of the positions there that we are paying for over these last 8 years. Youth Ambassador for Diaspora Affairs. What is that? Overseer of the National Cathedral. National Cathedral, this pit which has been abandoned for so many years, we are paying somebody. Church Relations Manager, we are paying somebody for that. Diaspora Church Mobilization Officer. Can you believe that? Policy and Coordinator Analyst. What is that? Focal Person, La Francophonie. Technical Director, La Francophonie. Coordinator, Special Development Initiatives. Director of Special Projects.
So
Manager
you cut out all these people.
All these are more false nebulous.
They used to build schools and things.
Exactly.
No, but
that's too much wastage.
Sustainable?
Too much wastage.
Is that a sustainable?
Aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you embarrassed? Presidential staff at NAPCO. What's that? The people themselves are stranded at home. They are not being paid. We have a presidential staffer for NAPCO, office manager, office management executive associate, data manager, all kinds of, it's jobs for the boys and girls. So President Mahama is saying you cut out all of this needless fat and have the leanest government in history. That is going to help us to meet some of these important obligations. So Free SHS, we are saying that we will review it, and when we say review, we are now, because of the mischief, we are saying that, look, we will improve. So in our manifesto,
I see improve. I was looking out for review, so but I actually saw improve.
We've left review for them because we've seen that, look, you can't just, the saying goes that you can't wake up somebody pretending to be sleeping. You know, if he was really sleeping, you could wake them up the whole, look, please review, look at the dictionary, review cannot mean cancel. But these are people pretending to be sleeping. So you just have to, so we are using improve. So we'll improve on it. bring in the private schools who have been complaining for many years, make sure we address the double track conundrum, which many parents and students don't like, is affecting contact hours, and then we'll improve the feeding, we'll invest in infrastructure so that we can stop this double track. Look, a lot of the e-blocks that we left behind have been abandoned. They are being allowed to rot. We are saying that we'll complete them.
So they're in the bushes and you build them so far away from town. But I mean, this is the point of view. We'll take another break. When we come back, that'll be the final lap of the program. We'll put some specifics to the spokesperson on governance and restoring good governance and fighting corruption. He's the spokesperson for that subsector of the NDC manifesto. I will be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back. This is The Point of View. My guest, Honorable Okudzeto Ablakwah, MP Northton, Chairperson or Chairman, Government Assurance Committee of Parliament, and also spokesperson on the governance or good governance and corruption subsector of the, or subsection of the NDC newly launched 2024 manifesto. We're talking about education. One proposition that appears to be grabbing the headlines is the no-fee stress, which is paying the school fees for first year students at the tertiary institutions, you know, and then second year onwards, you say you use the student loans, etc., to take care of that. When the free SHS was introduced, a lot of civil society people, including your side, talked about means testing, the fact that it's a lot of waste giving everybody for free when some people could pay. It's not the same thing we are repeating. Why are you paying for everybody at the first year level when we do not even have the resources? Is that not a waste of the public purse? How about you do bursaries or you identify those who need it and pay for them?
So it's a legitimate concern, and that is why, unlike the free SHS, which was rolled out for all the cohorts, Form 1 to Form 3, what we are doing under the no fee stress program is that we are saying only first years. The continuing students will be put on the student's loan, those who need it after a needs assessment. So inherent in our policy is a clear distinction of making sure that you are not being too wasteful. Of course, if you consider the other leg of this promise, which relates to the persons living with disability. As for them, we have said that throughout the entire, so if it's a 4-year program or a 5-year program or a 6-year program, throughout their first degree, they have full support. So inherent in our policy is some, needs assessment that we have done. So for the PWDs, all the day is, we've identified them that, look, as an affirmative action policy, they should benefit. Then for the rest, we have said that only first years. Now, as you become a continuing student, you will then have to really assess yourself. If you think that you still need support, then you go to the student loans, which we have promised to revamp. The student loan currently is owed about 50 billion cedis. We are saying that if we uncap Get Fund and we decollateralize Get Fund, we can have adequate resources this year. I mean, we were sitting here in Parliament when we were shocked to realize that instead of Get Fund getting their full accruals of 7 billion cedis, they were getting only 3 billion cedis, 4 billion because of the capping and then the collateralization, the Dachi bond. They couldn't get what they deserve. So once we uncap and we decollateralize, we'll have funds to take care of these very, very novel policies.
I mean, there's a popular saying that now, Dr. Bawumia, recently put out some data. He said you only achieved 28% of your 2012 manifesto promises. But in their case, in the 2016 manifesto, they've achieved 83% of that. And in the 2020 manifesto, which is actually the working manifesto now, so far they've achieved 80%. Compare 28% to 83 or 80%. And tell us why we should give you another opportunity.
This your quotation from Dr. Bawumia reminds me of what the legendary ABF Husseini said that if you meet Dr. Bawumia and he even greets you good morning, you have to check the direction of the sun. I mean, where is he getting these?
He said they did the numbers.
Voodoo
they sat
figures
on
from?
it. They did the numbers.
We did work, and I did that presentation in 2020, assessing implementation of their 2016 budget, and we scored them 14%. Their manifesto, pardon me, their 2016 manifesto. And we scored them 14%.
14.
So
he put it at 83%.
Where from this 83%? Where? You know, there were over 400 promises that they couldn't fulfill when we did that work. So you see, I prefer that these matters should be handled by independent institutions. And I think that you in the media, governance think tanks, can assess all of us. I don't think that it should be left with, you know, particularly people like Dr. Bawumia, who has a serious challenge with truth and accuracy.
Let's look at the person, the man Bawumia.
Yeah.
I mean, many see him as a very active vice president. Indeed, your own friend, our friend, Professor H.S. Kanku, recently launched a book, Dr. Bawumia and the Modern Vice Presidency in Ghana. And in that book, he talked about Bawumia being the most visible vice president in the history of Ghana. He said it's brought dignity to the office of the vice president. The office was ceremonial until Vice President Bawumia transformed it and demonstrated great leadership focused on the future. And indeed, he coined it Bawumiology. We talked about his philosophy about innovation and the future. There should be something that we have to say about this man beyond, you know, he being your political opponent. He deserves some credit. He's made the office of the vice president attractive. Wouldn't you agree so?
I mean, Dr. H.S. Nkaku knows that we've had running debates, have totally disagreed, and there are many people who've disagreed. Indeed, a lot of people have laughed at that work. Dr. H.S. Nkaku has done a lot of good things, but this particular book, it's not clear what the motive is and those who are behind it. But he subjected himself to a lot of ridicule. Look, if we are talking about a vice president who's brought so much opprobrium, so much scorn to the office of vice president, who is being mocked all over for not being truthful, not bringing dignity to that office. It is Dr. Bawumia. So I don't know if this is a paid. I don't know if that was a paid for PR work. But
no, I don't know. I don't think so.
But really, no. There's go out there and talk to the average Ghanaian.
There's a talk also.
I mean,
he's never been president before. He said he's never been president before. So if you like, let's do the comparison: vice president, vice president. Let's see what Bawumia has achieved as vice president. Let's see what Mahama has achieved as vice president. Then based on that, we can see who deserves to come back to the presidency or to go to the presidency.
We are happy to have that debate any day. Under Vice President Mahama, Ghana had the law. And don't forget that the vice president,
head of economic management,
traditionally, have chaired the economic management.
Fastest growing economy, 14%.
Fastest growing economy, 14%. Longest period of inflation, over many months, more than 15 months. The highest cocoa production of more than 1 million metric tons.
So that's all Vice President Mahama?
All Vice President Mahama. Under Vice President Mahama, we never had to file for bankruptcy, tell our creditors that, please, we are coming to negotiate, we can't pay. We never had to do financial haircuts. Look, many people are actually outraged that after this scorecard, this vice president has the effrontery to put himself up for president. Many people are totally outraged, and I'm with them.
Does former President Mahama regret anything he did as president? Of course, upon reflection, does he regret anything that he may want to correct in his next term, should he get a chance?
Former President Mahama is the first to say that he has reflected and he's done a lot of introspection. And many things he would like to do better, he would like to improve. We improve every day.
Like what?
You either improve or you perish. And I believe that in terms of even his leadership style, his approach, he's one who many people have said that he should be more stern. He's a bit too laid back and all of that. And you begin to see that when you get closer to him and you talk to him, that he's going to crack the whip. He's not going to tolerate a lot of
a final one. Many people have raised it.
That many people engage in.
Normally, in the second term of governments, people begin to put themselves up to be flag bearers, and so they start doing things. In this case, you have just one term. So right from the get-go, a lot of people will be seeking to do things to get themselves visible and doing a lot of things to succeed him. Is that a concern, and how do you hope to deal with that?
Oh, I'm sure President Mahama would deal with that easily. Look, and what I like about the NDC is that, if you have noticed, traditionally people emerge, and there's always a landslide. We've never had a close call, a close shave when it comes to these elections. The base will decide, the masses will decide, and I don't think we are going to have any rancor or any distraction at all. And I'm sure the ground rules will be spelled out. If you want to focus on your personal ambition instead of the agenda to reset Ghana, you'll be advised to stay away.
Very well.
So I'm sure that we will be fine. And you see, this offers President Mahama a golden opportunity that no president has ever had, because of the fear of second term. Second term, I want a second term vote. Things that presidents should do, bold decisions, they are afraid. Their party people won't allow them. Look at even cleaning Accra, clearing the street, dealing with Galamsey. They say, the party needs support, the party needs a second term. And their hands are tied. They feel incapacitated.
The party wants to succeed itself.
President Mahama, in history, will have the most golden opportunity to deal with vexed matters, all of these hydra-headed challenges that presidents have been afraid, to deal with head on. And that is the advantage that one term that he comes with, especially after having reflected and having all of that experience. That's the advantage that President Mahama has.
Very well. Thank you so much, the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwah, MP for Northton, Chairperson, Government Assurance Committee of Parliament.
Now Assurances Committee.
Assurances Committee of Parliament, and also, for the purpose of this interview, spokesperson for the Good Governance and Anti-Corruption subsection of the NDC Manifesto. Of course, there are many things we couldn't talk about, 24-hour economy, extra, but those ones will fall under the economy. He dealt with the governance side of things. My name is Selom Adonu, asserting for Bernard Avle. Catch you same time, another time. Have a good evening.